Well, hello. God, it has been a minute, hasn't it? Welcome back after 2.5 years. So I'm going to be doing something a bit different over the next couple of weeks for a video. I thought I'd make a video about just how to do an interrail trip and what it's like and all that. Because obviously I've done these longer videos before, but I've never done one where we actually stop off and show what things are like. And excuse the cat in the background, but so we're going to be heading from Bradford today down to Paris and eventually across Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia and to Tallinn in Estonia. And then we'll eventually head across to Finland and then into Scandinavia before heading back down and home. Should be an interesting journey. I hope you find it an interesting video. Just going to make my way down to the station. Too tired to bother with a bus this morning. I'm getting a taxi. And, yeah. Join me for the ride. My Koshka. My Gizmo.
Yes, good morning and welcome back. It feels good to be back here making videos once more, so without further ado, let's get going. So we start this mammoth journey in the spiritual home of the RS3 Bradford. First and foremost, we'll be heading down to London so that we can catch the Eurostar across to Paris, where we'll spend our first night. But first of all, for those of you not really familiar with what an Interrail pass is, I'll give a very quick rundown. Interrail and indeed Eurail passes allow for unlimited rail travel across Europe over a set period of time. You can get as few as 4 days up to as much as 3 months continuous. If you're wondering, the Interrail passes are for people from a set list of participating countries in Europe, while the Eurail passes are for people coming from out with these countries, so you can still take advantage of these passes if you're visiting Europe from further afield. Interrail passes are generally not allowed to be used in your country of residence. However, some countries, including the UK, allow for 2 so-called outbound and inbound travel days, so you can make use of your own country's rail network to allow you to leave and re-enter. Now, some operators will require you to pay a supplement on top of your pass to reserve a seat. Generally speaking, this will apply to longer distance services and sleeper trains. This brings me on to my next point, in that Interrail and Eurail sites will try and tell you that you have to buy a seat reservation for a lot of intercity services in the UK, and they'll try and charge you €6 for the privilege. Firstly, this simply isn't true. With the exception of the Caledonian sleeper Lumo, and if you want a berth on the Night Riviera, seat reservations aren't mandatory here in the UK. It is very possible to just board a train, check the little displays above the seats and try and find an unreserved seat. That said, I would still recommend booking a seat, as our trains in the UK often can get quite busy, especially at peak times. This can be done for free though through most operators, right up until just a few minutes before departure. Now, both Interrail and Eurail passes offer both first and second class variants. We've booked a 10 days in 2 months first class pass for our trip, which cost €246. Although note that I did buy this during a sale and get a discount for being under the age of 28. For the full range of prices, be sure to check out the Interrail and Eurail pass sites as relevant, which I'll link below. Anyway, that's enough waffling on about the ins and outs of the passes. I could go on all day about them, so I definitely recommend doing some research of your own if a trip like this interests you. For now, let's catch our train to London. The first train we'll be catching is the 0630 LNER service from Bradford Foster Square to London King's Cross. This is their West Riding Limited service, which will only call at Shipley, Leeds and Wakefield, before running non-stop to King's Cross. This service, as with the vast majority of LNER's services, is operated by one of their Azuma trains. As you'd expect from an intercity train, first class features open saloon style seating laid out in a 2+1 configuration. The seats feature a degree of recline as well as at-seat power points, and these trains are also Wi-Fi enabled. In fact, I think this applied to pretty much every train we took across all of Europe, so yeah, I won't keep repeating myself on that. And we depart Bradford on time at 6:30. Scheduled travel time to London is 2 hours and 29 minutes, and our top speed will be 125 miles an hour. After Leeds, the crew commences the meal service. This is included in the price of a first class ticket on LNER. A number of options were offered, but for me, I couldn't really see past the full LNER breakfast, which I found to be really good. This was accompanied by a cold drink, water, as well as a choice of tea or coffee. Some form of food and drink will generally be included for first class passengers on intercity trains in the UK. Now, our trains in the UK may not be the fastest or most punctual, but I think that first class catering is something that we excel at. As you'll soon see, food and drink is generally not included for first class passengers across much of Europe. After a pleasant but uneventful trip up the East Coast Main Line, we find ourselves passing the home of Darts Alley Pally. You're going to have to imagine chasing the sun in the background here because I am not paying to license it. We then pass Arsenal's Emirates Stadium, under the London end of High Speed 1 and into King's Cross, where we arrive on time at just before 9 AM. From King's Cross, where there's someone protesting atop the clock tower, it's just a short walk across Pancras Road to St Pancras International, where we'll catch our Eurostar service to Paris. Now, I've allowed a bit of extra time before our train departs, which will be at just after 12:30. This is to allow for the additional security and passport checks, which will take place before we depart to France. So in the meantime, let's head for the first of many coffees. How about that nice cup of coffee? Eurostar trains over there. Got a little bit of a wait now because I didn't really trust the trains coming down, so I booked a bit of a... That one wants to stop messing around with its brakes. I booked a bit of a later Eurostar because just in case we encountered any problems on the way down, but we would have been alright. we could have got the 10:31. We're on the 12:31, so we've got a little bit of time to wait until it opens up. But yeah, enjoy a couple and then we'll head through to departures. At St Pancras, Eurostar departures can be found under the Majestic canopy, about midway along the lower level. Check-in usually opens around 90 minutes prior to departure. Once security and immigration formalities are completed, you'll find yourself in this very overcrowded waiting area. To be honest, unless Pret or a overpriced shop tickles your fancy, there's naff all through here. And unless you're travelling in Eurostar Premier or are a Eurostar carte blanche holder, you won't be able to access the lounge. Interrail first class holders can travel in either Standard or Plus, the latter of which is what was previously called Standard Premier, before Eurostar and Tallinn merged a few years ago. Eurostar have some of the highest reservation fees for pass holders, excluding sleeper trains that is, with our Plus reservation to Paris costing €40 each. I was also a bit hacked off with Eurostar, as when I booked this, I selected a nice table for two for my wife Ellie and I. However, about a week out from departure, this was changed to a table for four, and there were no other seats for me to change to by this point. So that's not at all great, but whatever I guess. At least it's only just over 2 hours to Paris. Boarding commences around 20 minutes prior to departure. This is set to be a fully booked service across all classes, thanks in part at least to the fact that there seemed to be about half of France's police force joining us on board. Yes, the way I pointed. Once on board, I'm sorry to say the disappointments continued. This was my first time travelling in Eurostar Plus, and I was surprised by just how uncomfortable these seats were. Again, at least it's only just over 2 hours to Paris. We actually find ourselves pulling away from St Pancras a few minutes early. Scheduled travel time to Gare du Nord is 2 hours and 28 minutes, and our top speed will be 300 kilometers an hour. The meal service was swiftly commenced after departing London. 2 options were offered and I went for the couscous. This was served with a bread roll, chocolate, a choice of a soft or alcoholic drink and water. This was chased down by a choice of either tea or coffee. Now, despite this only being a cold meal, I was actually really impressed with the catering offer on this journey. Very tasty and of seemingly high quality. No sooner had I finished my lunch were we entering the Channel Tunnel at Folkestone. Around 20 minutes later, we emerge back into the daylight in Calais. Don't forget to set your clocks forward by an hour.
La descente se fait à droite dans le sens de la marche d'exit is Interrail junction right.
After a 2.5 hour non-stop blast, we arrive into Paris Gare du Nord. Now that we're off the train, it's time to head over to our hotel for the night. For the first part of the trip, we've just booked 1 night stays. Once we get to Riga, as we've already seen most of the other cities on the way, we'll start staying for 2 nights to allow for some more sightseeing.
Well guys, we made it to the hotel. My god. First of all, sorry about the lack of footage getting over here. As I'm sure anyone will tell you who's been to Paris before, there were quite a lot of, should we say, rather shady characters kicking around on the good old RER. So we're staying here for the night and then continuing on to Vienna tomorrow, but I thought we'd go take a little look around Paris. My wife Ellie has never been, so show her a few of the sights, get a good night's sleep hopefully. This hotel room is basic, but it was cheap enough, and I don't know, the area doesn't seem too sketchy, which again, a lot of the things I don't like about Paris. It's a nice enough city, but there's a lot of shady folk around, I always think. But yeah, we're going to head down into Paris, up to near the Eiffel Tower, and hopefully get a bite to eat or something. So yeah, we'll see you there. Also, there's communal toilets in this hotel, which are, yeah, generally clean. The old douche. Yeah, I think we'll get that a miss.
We decided to head down to Jardin du Trocadero to take a quick look at the Eiffel Tower, and then Ellie wanted to try out Carrette. Honestly, considering we'd heard a lot of good things about Carrette, it was really rather disappointing, especially considering that this small spread cost the better part of €40.
Is there actually a system today, or is it just a bit of a free-for-all? Because this ain't how roundabouts work back home. Oh, blooming heck, I'm knackered. Oh, I forgot how much travelling tires you out, but we didn't stay in Paris, centre of Paris, for long because it was so busy and just we're both so tired. Oh, so we come back to the hotel and we put some rubbish on telly. This seems like, I don't know what it's called, I can't remember, or it wouldn't say rather, but it's like a combination between Crystal Maze, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and the National Lottery draw. I don't know, I'm quite enjoying it. Anyway, I'm going to get some sleep now and see you in the morning. Oh, well, good morning guys. Once again, it feels way too early, but there you go. So today we'll be heading over further east towards well, good morning guys. Well, I feel way too early again, but there you go. So today we'll be continuing on to Vienna. Now I feel like I've covered these two trains more times than I care to count. I think I took them when I came from Bucharest to London. I've taken them on their own. You know, I've done these trains a fair few times. We'll be taking the TGV to Frankfurt and then a German ICE train through to Vienna. Yeah, just going to head down to the Gare de l'Est. Not sure if we're going to get a taxi yet or the RER. I haven't quite decided. We'll leave in about the next 10-15 minutes. So yeah, should be a fairly nice day though. I think I could do with a coffee or about 6. I feel my head going already, but yeah. So I'm just going to finish packing my stuff back away and let's head to the Gare de l'Est.
So, after a short taxi ride, we make it to Gare de l'Est. If you're connecting directly from Gare du Nord, this is just a short walk away. After a quick bite to eat, it's time to board our TGV to Frankfurt. Departure is scheduled for 7:16. Now, ignore this single-decker Reisu set. This will split from our train in Strasbourg. Our train is a TGV Euro duplex. These were built in the early 2010s and can hit speeds of 320 kilometers an hour. We've got coach 13, seats 352 and 353 today, which are located on the upper deck of the train. Now, while it is perhaps starting to look a little bit dated, this is one of my favourite first class products. These seats are basically just big old armchairs and are very, very comfortable indeed. The table seats even have these nice ornamental lamps, which just adds that extra touch of class in my opinion. And we depart Gare de l'Est on time. Scheduled travel time to Frankfurt is 3 hours and 54 minutes. After leaving Paris, we join the LGV Est. This will allow us to pretty much run flat out at top speed as far as Strasbourg. Travelling at these sorts of speeds truly is a remarkable experience, even if we can't see much outside just yet. To put it into a bit of context, we're currently going faster than the takeoff speed of a Boeing 747. Eventually, we emerge from the fog and into the suburbs of Strasbourg. The city is located just west of the border with Germany.
Ladies and gentlemen, our train is going to be... Bistro Hotel Nuit finden Sie Wagen 14 in der oberen Etage und wir wünschen Ihnen eine angenehme Reise. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard.
After leaving France, we make a brief stop in the town of Kiel, so that the Polizei can come aboard to quickly check passports and identity cards. One other nice feature of these TGV sets is that they feature a bar car in the middle of the train. Now, while it is rather expensive and it is just snacks and microwave food on offer, it's still a good feature to have on board. If you're in first class, you can even order food directly to your seat. Once in Germany, we continue to Karlsruhe, our first scheduled passenger stop since crossing the border. After Karlsruhe, we arrive at our final calling point of Mannheim, about 40 minutes prior to arriving into Frankfurt. On the approach to Frankfurt, it never fails to impress me just how many tracks there are. Just look at this. I bet it must be some job coordinating all of the various trains in and out of the station. Anyway, we arrive into Frankfurt am Main Hauptbahnhof on time at 11:10. We'll have just over an hour here until our connecting train to Vienna, giving us plenty of time to observe the going-ons at the station. When I'm travelling, I don't know about you, but I certainly appreciate a bit of time to just stop and observe everyday life, even if this is just a train station, albeit a rather beautiful station at that. And our next train arrives in from Dortmund on time. Nah, only joking. This is a Deutsche Bahn service, so it inevitably arrived in late, albeit a rather modest 5 minutes. The ride through to Vienna will be aboard a pair of these rather slick-looking ICE T sets. ICE, of course, stands for Intercity Express, with the T here denoting that this is a tilting train, which will certainly be useful on the rather windy route to Vienna. Despite being an intercity express train, these ICE T-sets only relatively speaking at least, have a top speed of 230 kilometers an hour. That said though, we don't really need a faster train today, as the route through to Austria doesn't see us travelling on high-speed lines for most of the journey. Now, while I can, and indeed will, fault Deutsche Bahn's punctuality, or rather lack thereof, I certainly can't fault them for the trains themselves. Deutsche Bahn has, in my opinion, one of the nicest fleets of trains in Europe. Even though this is the older ICE interior, it still looks very smart and holds up well, I think. It's certainly nothing flashy, but I think that is a good thing here, as they have just provided a nice and calm space for people to relax and enjoy their journey. You can't really ask for much more, I think. By the way, a seat reservation is not mandatory on most ICE trains, including this one, although I definitely recommend booking one as these trains can get very busy indeed. I booked mine through the Austrian operator ÖBB, and it cost me a rather nominal €3. Anyway, we're now underway and departed Frankfurt at 12:25. Scheduled travel time to Vienna is 6 hours and 28 minutes. After departing, I waste no time in ordering a beer from the host. It's a similar deal as on the TGV here. You can either have your food served to your seat or go to the restaurant. Back outside, we've just arrived at our first stop of Hanau. We pick up a delay of about 95 minutes here. God, even out of context you'd know who I was on about here. This was due to trespassers on the railway. To be honest, while I can't fault Deutsche Bahn for this, these kinds of delays are very common in my experience of using the German rail network. Anyway, what can you do other than grab another beer and wait it out? Ellie decided to try one of the onboard food options. She went for the chicken tikka masala, and considering this cost the better part of €15, it honestly wasn't that great. Finally, we get back underway and continue towards Austria and Vienna. The journey to Vienna, while nothing remarkable, is nice enough, as we wind our way between the various towns and cities en route.
Wir verabschieden uns von den Nürnberg und umsteigenden Gästen und danken auch Ihnen für die heutige Fahrt mit der Deutschen Bahn. Auf Wiedersehen, Ladies and Gentlemen.
Eventually, we arrive in the city of Passau. A short time after departing the station, we cross the River Inn and then subsequently into Austria. After a brief stop at Vienna Meidling, we pull into the city's main station, Wien Hauptbahnhof, at around 8:20, representing a delay of around 90 minutes. From here, it's just a short walk to our hotel, or rather hostel, for the night. We'll be continuing on to Warsaw, Poland, first thing tomorrow morning.
Oh, well, good morning from Vienna. I look rough. God, I think that's like... I was in a deep sleep about 5 minutes ago and it's time to go again. It is... I may have a look. It's currently 20 to 6 in the morning. We got here about, it must have been about 8, 9 o'clock last night. Sometime between then, we were about an hour and a half late. It was a right palaver getting here. We stayed at the A&O hostel in next to Wien Hauptbahnhof. It don't look it, but trust me, this bed is rock hard when you're laying on it. But I suppose at least this room's got a bathroom in it. A&O, if you haven't used them, is sort of like the Ryanair of hostels and hotels in Europe. Anyway, today we're going to be heading back across to the station in Vienna because in about half an hour, 6:10, we are catching the train up to Warsaw in Poland. I'm looking forward to this train because it's got one of PKP's dining cars on it, and I am a very big fan of them. And to be quite frank, I could probably do a coffee or 6 as well while I'm on there, get rid of the bags from under these eyes. But yeah, let's head across to the station and let's go catch the train to Warsaw.
Now, long-time viewers of the channel will know that I am a big fan of Wien Hauptbahnhof. It's very new as far as train stations go, having only fully opened in 2015. As well as being very easy to navigate, there's also a very good selection of shops and food options located right within the station building itself. Well, I couldn't have timed emerging onto platform 10 any better if I tried, as our train is just pulling in, having started its journey at Wien Westbahnhof and already having called at Vienna Meidling too. We'll be riding aboard this locomotive-hauled train for the 7-hour and 50-minute ride up to Warsaw, with the coaches being provided by Polish operator Pt1 Intercity. Now, naturally, the first-class coach is right at the front of the train, so we've got a bit more walking to do before we can finally sit back and relax. A seat reservation is mandatory on this train, as it is on most Polish long-distance trains, and I once again booked mine through ÖBB for €3. First class consists of compartment-style seating, with there being 6 seats per compartment. Compartments are still very common on Polish long-distance trains, and you'll find them on pretty much every locomotive-hauled train that Pt1 operates. They are comfortable enough and provide more than ample space for you to stretch out and relax on your journey. Shortly after leaving Vienna, we decided to head through to the dining car in the next coach for a spot of breakfast. Or at least that was the plan.
Oh, well, this is a bit rubbish, isn't it? I'm looking forward to some coffee and some breakfast. And the card machine in the dining car is not working on this train. And I don't have any cash because why would I have thought of that? So, it's going to be a fun 8 hours now, but Zabka, please, I'm looking forward to seeing you when I get to Poland.
Well, at least some bottled water was provided. To be fair, it's partly my fault, as I should have remembered to fetch some cash. But oh well, it is what it is. Within an hour of leaving Vienna, we have already left Austria and find ourselves in Břeclav in the Czech Republic.
about 9:30, we find ourselves in Bohumin, which is just northeast of the Czech Republic's third largest city, Ostrava, and just a few miles away from the border with Poland. Not only will our train change directions here, but the Czech locomotive that has taken us this far will be swapped out for a Polish one. A short time after leaving Bohumin, we arrive in the village of Chałupki. I would like to apologise to any Polish speakers for that pronunciation. Anyway, this is our first stop in Poland.
Na stacji Katowice można przesiąść się do pociągów dalekobieżnych regionalnych lub podmiejskich. Ze stacji Katowice odjeżdżają pociągi w kierunku...
We make a number of stops as we continue to Warsaw, the most notable of which is the city of Katowice, which is about 80 kilometers west of Krakow. After leaving Katowice, we decide to try our luck again with the dining car, and hey presto, we're in luck. PKP Intercity offer what is, in my opinion at least, one of the best on-train catering options in all of Europe. The service is provided by a company called Vaz, and offers traditional Polish cuisine prepared fresh here on the train. As well as my beer, I went for pierogi, which is basically meat-filled dumplings, while Ellie went for the pork schnitzel. As expected, both were very good and didn't particularly break the bank either. After my food, I decided to grab a coffee to take back to our compartment. As we continued to Warsaw, the temperature outside started to plummet. Temperatures dipped below -10 degrees Celsius on the day I filmed this, as Poland and much of Central and Eastern Europe experienced one of the most extreme cold snaps in over a decade. Eventually, we find ourselves in the Warsaw metropolitan area and arriving into Warsaw West Station. Now, what an improvement this is from the hellhole that this station used to be when I was last here about 5 years ago. Poland has invested a lot of money into railway infrastructure over the last 20 years or so, and many of its stations have received some serious glow-ups as a result. A short time later, we pull into Warsaw Centralna, our final destination for today. We arrive bang on time at 2 o'clock. From here, it's just a short tram ride to the premier class Warsaw Centrum Hotel, where we will be staying tonight.
Oh, so we made it to the hotel. Quite a nice little train ride over. I actually stayed in this hotel a few years ago, and it's a lot nicer now than it was. Like, look at this bathroom. Tell you, for a budget hotel, that's not bad. Anyway, I'm going to go into Warsaw and I need to try and get another jumper because I've just realised I've only packed one, which was clever, and get a few beers or something from Zabka, which is a shop that has a place in my heart. Anyway, so I'm going to Warsaw and I'll catch you in a bit.
Well, maybe I won't be getting that jumper after all, as I'd forgotten that it was Sunday, so most of the shops were closed. However, good old Zabka, as reliable as ever, was open. If you've been to Poland, then I imagine you have encountered several of these stores, but for those of you who haven't, this is basically the best thing since sliced bread. Now, I know it's only a corner shop on the surface, and well, it is really, But you'll find pretty much everything you need in these little shops, from fresh bread to meals, chocolate, and most importantly, cheap beer. Now, there's two words that go together nicely.
Oh, it's too cold and we're too tired to go out, so I've ordered in a nice looking turkey schnitzel, some more pierogi, and Ellie is having salmon. Oh, well, good morning. Feel a lot more refreshed today. About to head down back out into the cold in Warsaw. It's minus 20 degrees at the minute. I've never known it be so cold in Poland, even in winter. By all accounts of what I've read online, this is about the coldest it's been here in about 20 years. I'm going to head back up to the station Warsaw Centralna. I think that's how you say it anyway, Warsaw Central Station. We're going to be heading over to Vilnius in Lithuania today. Got two trains to catch, one to the border, and then we just have to change trains because the track gauge changes. They run on, I think it's Russian gauge in Lithuania and the Baltics. So yeah, should be an interesting journey. One thing that was interesting, despite having a first class Interrail pass, I could only book a second class ticket for this trip. I don't know whether first class had sold out or what. I don't think it makes much difference on these trains anyway. So yeah, I'm going to go out, brave the cold, hopefully quickly get into hopefully warm station. And yeah, the train leaves just before 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Yeah, just before 9 o'clock. The train's coming from Krakow. I've seen it's already set off. So yeah, yeah. Let's head down to the station. Oh bloody hell!
Now, this strip of hotels here is actually located just across the road from the Stacja Museum, which stands on the site and even uses some of the station buildings of the former station Warsaw Główna. The museum houses a number of old locomotives and rolling stock from around Poland. Now, while I didn't visit it on this trip to Warsaw, I did have a look around a few years ago, and it's well worth a visit if you ever find yourself here with an hour or two to kill.
Dziękuję.
Back in the station, we've got some time to kill of our own before our train, which is the 08:57 to Moskva leaves. Moskva, of course, being the small village just across the border in Lithuania, and not the capital city of Russia. Warsaw Centralna is a pleasant enough station. I believe it received most of its glow up in time for the UEFA Euro 2012 football tournament, which was hosted both here in Poland and in neighbouring Ukraine. Oh, and spare a thought for those travelling back to Vienna today. The train was supposed to leave at 10 to 6, but is currently showing as 3 hours late. Yikes.
Right.
As you saw yesterday, the tracks are tucked away in this underground area. It is a little bit dingy, but functional enough, I suppose. And here comes our train arriving in from Krakow. It's another locomotive hauled set for us today. Now, reservations are mandatory on the train as far as Moskva, although when you book a reservation, it'll give you an itinerary for both this and the connecting train to Vilnius. I booked mine with the Lithuanian operator LTG Link, with reservations costing €5. Well, despite this coach having been built in 1976, PKP have done a good job of ensuring that it's still fit for purpose in the present day. Now, I believe these coaches may have used to have been compartment coaches, but were converted to open saloon seating at some point or another. I'm not 100% sure on that though, so feel free to correct me in the comments, but it would explain why there's massive gaps between the windows and the lack of symmetry when it comes to the window arrangements on each side of the coach. Anyway, that's us underway. Scheduled travel time to Moscow is 5 hours and 44 minutes. As we make our way out of central Warsaw, we cross a somewhat frozen Vistula river and past the National Stadium, which is of course home of the Polish national football team. A short time later, we pull into Warsaw East Station. We incur a delay of around 45 minutes here, as there was apparently a fault with the locomotive. To be honest though, this is probably one of the best places for this to happen, as one of PKP's main depots is literally just around the corner from here. I've got to say, the coffee on PKP Intercity is pretty good as train coffee goes, and Ellie enjoyed whatever these pretzel stick things are. Białystok is another Polish station that has had a facelift recently. When I visited here in 2020, this was basically just a building site, but from what I can see from the train, it looks really good now. Anyway, there's a bit of a wait here while they swap out the electric locomotive for a diesel one, as much of the rest of the line to Moscow isn't under wires. Now, I think it would be rude if we didn't pay another visit to the dining car before we change train. I went for the chicken this time. Again, it was very good. Before long, we find ourselves crossing from Poland and into Lithuania, a new country for me. We ended up arriving into Moscow with a delay of around 50 minutes. The good news is though that because the two trains act as sort of a through service, they will hold the second train even if the first one is running late. The last portion of the trip will be operated by the Lithuanian national operator LTG Link, more specifically on one of their Polish-built PESA 730M diesel multiple units. LTG Link have 13 of these in their fleet. The reason for having to change trains, by the way, is because Lithuania and the rest of the Baltic states have networks made up of Russian gauge tracks, which are quite a bit wider than the standard gauge tracks that we have been travelling on up to this point. However, the change of train won't be necessary for much longer, as a new standard gauge rail link connecting Poland to Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia is currently under construction and is set to be at least partially operational by the year 2030. Right, now that we're on board, the remainder of the journey to Vilnius is scheduled to take around 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now, these PESA units are alright and comfortable enough. That said, considering that some of the routes that these trains operate are in excess of 6 hours long, they are a bit basic in my opinion.
Wasn't going to show you the toilet, but I found this sign quite amusing.
About an hour out of Vilnius, we make a brief stop in Lithuania's second largest city, Kaunas. From Kaunas, we're treated to a rather picturesque sunset as we close in on Vilnius. We eventually pull into Vilnius Central Station at around 5:45, meaning that we've actually made up some time, as that's only around 20 minutes late.
Oh, we've made it to the hotel. Well, that was quite a pleasant journey over, wasn't it? The streets here in Vilnius don't seem like a right slip and slide. I'll show you on the way, because we're going to go down to the old town and have a quick mooch around before we continue on to Riga tomorrow. This is the last place until we're basically on the way home. We've only got one night, so it'll be quite nice to have a rest tomorrow night. But yeah, no pun intended, it is Baltic outside, and there's just like ice covering all of the pavements and all sorts. These people seem to have got a hang of it, just like sliding down the street. I suppose it could be quite quick, but if you get used to it. But yeah, let's go see what Vilnius has to offer. See what's this.
Yeah, not so good at sliding on the ice, am I? Anyway, Vilnius is really quite a beautiful city to have a look around, especially when it's all lit up at night. I must say though, I was surprised at just how quiet it was, although I imagine the fact that this was just some random Monday night in February may have had something to do with that. The following morning, we make our way back to the station bright and early for our 07:03 departure to Riga. We're back in first class today, and LTG Link even operate a VIP lounge here in Vilnius, although we didn't visit it as we didn't have too long to wait. Instead, I decide to head straight out to the platform to see what other trains are kicking about here. LTG Link still operates a number of these ER9 Elektrika units. These date all the way back to the Soviet occupation of Lithuania, with these trains still being quite common in the likes of Russia, Ukraine and Belarus. Now, as much as I wish we were taking a ride aboard an Elektrika today, our 4-hour and 30-minute ride up to Riga will be aboard another Peza 730M. First class is somewhat nicer than second class, I guess, albeit still laid out in a 2+2 configuration. The seats are a little better padded and you do have a little bit more space, so that's nice, I suppose. After departing Vilnius, the host came round offering tea, coffee and water to first class passengers, as well as a little sweet treat, which I thought was a nice touch. I've got to say though, trains in the Baltic states are rather slow. It was very rare that we went above 120 km an hour across all 3 of the Baltic states. That said, the new Rail Baltica line that they're currently building will have an operational speed of 234 km an hour, which no doubt will drastically reduce journey times. It's also worth noting that this was the only train of the day that operates between Vilnius and Riga. Again, hopefully more services will be offered when the new line opens, as I'm led to believe that most people currently choose to travel between the major Baltic cities by bus at the moment. eventually, we find ourselves crossing a completely frozen over Daugava as we approach Riga Central Station.
Not entirely convinced it looks safe.
Enough people crossed it.
And we arrive on time at about 25 to 12. Now, our hostel is actually only a short walk away from the station. However, as we have a few hours to kill before we can check in, we decided to head and check out the river.
In the middle of the river. Let's go. This is insane. It's not even like it's a small river either, look at it. Bridge over there is the railway line on the second bridge we came over earlier. This is mental. This is just mental. The Daugava River in Riga is completely frozen at the minute. Apparently happens quite often in the winter months, at least partially. But I've never seen anything like this. This never happens in Britain, obviously. It's never cold enough. But just look at it. You've basically got somewhere you could go and cross-country ski right through the middle of Riga. It's absolutely mental. Anyway, Ellie is sat all the way over there. I think I should probably walk back to her because she's looking after our bags at the minute. But yeah, I also feel like I'm about to fall through like constantly, and it's somewhat irrational because this is frozen thick and this will not thaw over until the spring now. Apparently I just had a little look and saw this is normal. Oh, well, good morning from Riga. Let me take a seat here. We've got a day off from the trains now. In fact, we've got a day off pretty much everywhere we go. So that's nice. We've got some time to explore the places we're going to have a look around Riga today and see what it has to offer. And then tomorrow morning, about 7 o'clock, we'll be continuing up to Tallinn in Estonia. So that should be nice. But yeah, the train up here, God, it was quite slow. It took about 4 hours to get from Vilnius to here. And then I think it's another 6 hours up to Tallinn tomorrow. It might even be more than that. So yeah, the sooner they build this high-speed rail that's going to be connecting the Baltics with Poland, the better, I think. But yeah, let's go have a look around Riga. It looks like it's going to be a nice day out there, and it's from what I've seen so far, it looks quite a pretty city as well. So yeah, let's go. Oh dear, someone's not having a good day. Back down on the river. Better than taking the bridge, I guess. Apparently there's €100 fine for this. No one seems that bothered.
After a mooch around town and another walk on the river, we decided to check out Riga Cathedral. Riga Cathedral dates all the way back to the year 1211, and it's supposedly the largest medieval church in the Baltic states. following day, we're up bright and early once more to catch the only direct train of the day to Tallinn in Estonia, which departs at just before 20 to 8. It's definitely worth stocking up on food and drink before boarding this train, as despite the journey up to Tallinn being scheduled to take the better part of 6 hours, no catering is available on board. And here's our ride up to Estonia. This time we're travelling aboard a Stadlerflirt of the Estonian operator Elron. This is one of 36 examples they have in their fleet and is formed of 2 passenger coaches, plus one shorter coach which houses the diesel generator. Inside they're basically just commuter trains, with second class being laid out in a 2+3 configuration, and that must be rough spending nearly 6 hours there, and first class featuring a 2+2 seating layout. Despite this being the so-called intercity variant of Elron's Stadlerflirts, the first class seats are very similar to those found in second class on regional Stadlerflirts elsewhere in Europe, and to be honest, they're not all that comfortable. Well, after a brief spat with the conductor regarding the validity of our Interrail passes, no idea what that was all about, we're on our way north once more. We have an extended stop of around 10 minutes in the town of Valga, which is just north of the Latvia-Estonia border. If you don't want such an early start, it's also possible to catch a later train from Riga and change here for Tallinn. And connections seem to be quite well timed. I'm talking like 15 minutes or so generally speaking. From Valga, it's around another 4 hours to Tallinn. We also have another extended stop in Tartu. This is to allow for another 2 car units to be coupled to the back of the train. After what feels like an age, we finally find ourselves on the approach to Tallinn. Honestly, this new rail link can't come soon enough. And we pull into Tallinn Baltijaam, or Tallinn Baltic Station, very descriptive, I like that, on time at around 5 to 2. From here, it's just a 15-minute walk to our hotel for the next couple of nights.
Oh, so we've made it to the city hotel here in Tallinn. Got 2 nights here as well. We've got a spa day planned for tomorrow, so what we're going to do is we're going to go out, have a look around Tallinn now, and then we can have a nice relaxing day tomorrow. But yeah, train up were a bit rubbish. First class seat was hard as anything. I swear I've seen them seats in second class on regional trains elsewhere in Europe. Money got us here, I guess. So yeah, just freshen up a bit and then we'll head out for a bit. Sounds good.
Honestly, going into this trip, I didn't really know all that much about Tallinn. I must say though, I was absolutely blown away by just how gorgeous it was. Stunning architecture everywhere you looked and a very nice old town area.
Not entirely sure why there's still a Christmas tree up, but maybe there's a valid reason, I don't know.
After a walk around town, we decided to go and warm up with coffee and cake at Pt1. And just look at how cosy this place is. The coffee and cake were very good too. After this, we decided to head to a restaurant called Munga Kelda for tea. Again, this was very nice and cosy, built underground this time, and the food was pretty decent. The only thing I'd say was that it was a bit weird that we were the only people eating there, but hey ho, I guess. The following morning, we headed out to Elamau Spa, and oh my word, this place was amazing. Lots of lovely pools, saunas, jacuzzis, and there was even a swim-up bar too.
You've got there an ice bath heated to 8 degrees, and then this nice warm sauna. It is -10 at the minute. I'm going to step back inside because my feet are freezing.
After spending the morning relaxing in the spa, I decided to do what some might describe as rather unrelaxing and walk a few kilometres out through the cold to have a look at the port.
I mean, while the river is undeniably frozen over, that them docks are taking advantage of. The sea seems free of ice. I don't know, I read somewhere apparently this freezes over sometimes, but I don't know how much truth there is to that. It's, you know, the Gulf of Finland is, it's about 50 miles over to Helsinki over there, so yeah, I don't know, it seems like it would take a lot for that to freeze over. Well, there you have it. I do hope you've enjoyed part 1 of this Interrail trip. Do be sure to join me next week for part 2, when we'll be crossing the Gulf of Finland. I don't know if there'd be a boat or something to show you here, given that I am down at the port and there are a lot of sailings between here and Helsinki every day, but we'll be going on that tomorrow, so join me next week for that. And we'll also be heading up through Finland and then across to Sweden and through Scandinavia, through Denmark, and then eventually back home to the UK in just over a week's time. So yeah, do join me for that. I've got some quite unique hotels to bring you. I've got 2 ferries to bring you, which will also be interesting. I do love doing a good ferry, but yeah, do be sure to join me for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Do like if you enjoyed the video, give us a comment as well. Tell us what you did or didn't enjoy about this trip so far, and yeah, I'll see you next week for part 2.